Hi, I'm Lizzie Van Tassel, and I'm from the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project. A lot of families have been asking about how to have really great conversations with their kids about what they're reading. Here's some questions we get all the time from parents and from caregivers. Maybe some of these resonate with you. One thing we get all the time is, my child does not want me to be their teacher. How do I get them to talk to me about their books? Or a second thing I hear all the time is, the lines between home and school are so blurred right now. How can I help my child while still being mom or dad or caregiver and not their teacher? Or even a third question I hear is, how can I make these conversations happen naturally? Book talk that doesn't feel academic, but just kind of feels like good conversation. These are all really common things that we're hearing, especially now. And no, you do not need to take on the role of teacher. Actually, we might argue that your goal is to avoid too much academic content, that having natural, authentic conversations about books with our kids is such a crucial element to helping kids fall madly in love with reading. So, how can we have these natural conversations? What can we do at home to open ourselves up to these talks without taking on the role of teacher? I have a few tips that hopefully feel manageable for us, things that we're capable of adding to what is already a very full plate, I can imagine. So, here's tip number 1. Be real. Don't stress about the academic stuff. Ask kids what they are really thinking about the characters and the information they're learning in their books. Ask them what they like about the book and what they dislike about the book. Sometimes being a critic is more fun than being a fan. Book talk is real talk, fiction or nonfiction, whatever book your kids are holding in their hands. One huge reason we want to be better readers is because it helps us understand our world. The reading muscle that gets flexed doesn't only get flexed by reading, but it's also getting flexed by having conversations, by talking about books. So, tip number 1 is really about just being authentic and having those authentic reactions with your kids while they're reading. Laugh with your child, cry with your child, feel curious alongside your child. These authentic reactions are going to be a model for your kid on how having reactions to books is a really big part of reading. And this can happen with physical books or even following a family TV show or a movie that you've been watching. Take the shows that maybe, if you're like me, you've been binging and flex that empathy muscle. Practice having book talks about a show, or what we call at the project, a digital text. Tip number 2, open the door to conversations to the big stuff. It's super important that all kids are able to see themselves reflected in the books that they're reading, that they have characters that look like them, characters that act like them, and characters that feel like them. And it's equally as important that our kids are able to see characters who are different from them, the characters who look different, act different, feel differently. So we can be having natural and important conversations with our kids by asking questions that allow them to process how they connect or disconnect from the characters in their books. Questions that sound like, how do you feel similar or different to the characters in the book that you're reading? Or have you ever met anyone like this character before? Who? What reminds you of them? Do you have people like this in your school? Who? Why? Or you might even ask your kid about the setting, like questions that sound like, does this feel like our community? How so? Is it different from our community? Why do you think the author set the story here? And you could also be asking questions about the lessons that characters are learning, the lessons that authors want to teach us. You could ask questions like, have you learned the lesson that the character is learning before? Or did the character teach you that? Or do you think that what this character learned might change the way you live your life? Why? How? Overall, don't shy away from the conversations about race, about power, about all the isms that we want our kids to be aware of. Why else do we read but to help us be more empathetic people? more aware of the world we live in and our role in bettering it. And lastly, tip number 3, don't fall into the trap of thinking that you have to read every single book that your kids are reading in order to have great conversations. As your kids grow as readers, they will be getting into longer and longer books. Of course, we'd love to be the parents and caregivers and teachers who have read every single book our kids are reading, but it just isn't possible. Too many good books come out daily. So lean into the fact that you might not know the book and give your kid a chance to teach you all that they're learning and thinking and wondering. Asking follow up questions that sound like, how did you know that? Or why do you think so? Or, interesting. I wonder why the author did that. Do you have a guess? All of those questions can be motivational for kids and help them think deeper about their books and give them a chance to shine, a chance to teach you something. Okay. Thank you all so much for watching. Have so much fun talking to your kids about books. Happy reading.